Hey, family. This is Naturally Torah on Torah Talks, coming back to you with another pre recorded broadcast. And this is in regards to credit building for your children before the age of 18. So I'm just going to go over some things and share some videos for people that didn't know that you can start building your child's credit before the age of 18. So I just wanted to say that as of 2021, the median income for Black households in 2021 was 48,297, but the average Black household is bringing in $34,902, living check to check. So you're definitely not in a position to send a child to college or set them up for financial success if you're not, in a position to be successful yourself and you're living from check to check. So our children should have the same opportunities, whether they want to go to college or, entrepreneurship. So we need to start taking ownership on generational success for our children and grandchildren. So a lot of times, I am an insurance broker and I watch white people all the time. They buy several policies for their children and grandchildren, just to leave their heirs. And typically we're leaving debt to our children. We're not setting them up for anything. So I'm going to show a video about 10 young Black entrepreneurs, and then we're going to start getting into how you can build your child or grandchild's credit before the age of 18. Imagine if our parents or guardians was setting us up for success. Most of us, didn't start earning credit that was even noticeable until maybe your late 20s, early 30s. Because if so, a lot of us messed our credit up. A lot of us, when we turned 18, they were automatically offering us a credit card. Our parents, if they weren't educated on credit, they didn't tell us how to handle credit and how to make credit work for you. Because in this day and age, and the way this dollar is looking, credit is definitely more valuable than money. So if you guys give me a brief moment, we're gonna go and we're gonna watch a video about some Black entrepreneurs, and I just think it's awesome. So give me a moment, guys. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share this, and they're just going to be highlighting these young Black entrepreneurs.
And welcome back. In today's Black XLS presentation, we will highlight 10 African American kid entrepreneurs.
Welcome to BlackExcellist.com, the site where we celebrate Black excellence, opulence, and affluence. Our mission is to inspire you as we enlighten you.
Young business owners are among the most driven and revolutionary leaders today. Competing against established, innovative, and growing companies force you to think creatively and remain passionate about your product or service. These young, successful Black entrepreneurs have many traits in common. But the most important one is that they believe in themselves. They receive support from their parents, family, friends, or even strangers. But they started with an idea. These young entrepreneurs took a chance. They drafted a business plan, then they strategized and executed their plan. Keep an eye on these game-changing, enterprising kids as they continue to make waves in the business world. We here at Black Excellist salute all of these kidpreneurs, and we recognize their courage and persistence. In this original Black Excellist video, we will be featuring 10 African American kid entrepreneurs. If you have children or students who are expressing interest in entrepreneurship, this is a must-see. But without further ado, let's get started.
If you're serious about your podcast, stop recording with Zoom. and start recording with Riverside.
Michaela Almer, 13. Me and the Bees Lemonade. An entrepreneur and bee ambassador, Michaela Almer created a product that combined her great-grandmother's flaxseed recipes and her passion into what she named Bee Sweet Lemonade. Michaela's lemonade is sweetened with honey from local bees, with a percentage of the profits donated to organizations fighting to save honeybees. The world first learned of Michaela at just 10 years old, when she fearlessly entered ABC's show Shark Tank and secured a sweet deal with investor Daymond John. When she was only 11 years old, the ambitious entrepreneur made an $11 million deal with Whole Foods Market, the chain of high-end grocery stores, to carry her homemade lemonade in more than 55 stores. Mosiah Mo Bridges, 16. Mo's Bows. Unsatisfied with the limited bow tie designs, Mosiah Bridges asked his grandmother to help him create new designs out of material he hand-selected. The need for bow ties that appeal to a younger generation would eventually result in Mosiah starting his own business called Mo's Bows. He would eventually pitch his idea to the Shark Tank, where Daymond John agreed to be a mentor. In 2017, the NBA inked a 7-figure sponsorship deal with the young Memphis entrepreneur, giving his company the right to produce bow ties for all 30 NBA teams. Haley Thomas, 17. Happy. Healthy, active, positive, purposeful youth. When Haley Thomas was 8, her dad was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, but she and her mom were determined to help him beat the disease without drugs. The family dove into the latest nutrition research and began transforming their eating habits. This inspired Haley to educate kids about nutrition. Thus, she founded her own nonprofit, the Happy Organization, standing for Healthy, Active, Positive, Purposeful Youth. Happy aims to improve the health and wellness of children by implementing programs that teach kids how to cook nutritious meals and promote physical activity. Asia Newson, 14. Super Business Girl. Asia Newson, also known as Super Business Girl, started her candle business when she was just 5 years old, but she has now expanded into a full-fledged empire. As one of the youngest entrepreneurs in Detroit, she would eventually gain worldwide recognition when ABC's 2020 cameras caught her selling her candles on the street. Today, she has expanded her brand to offer more products. But more importantly, she has trained over 40 other young kids in Detroit to be entrepreneurs, thus creating power and possibility across a whole community. Maya Penn.
Fair use.
Maya's Ideas. Maya Penn is a successful 16-year-old award-winning eco-designer, artist, philanthropist, activist, entrepreneur, animated filmmaker, coder, illustrator, writer, and author who wants to change the world. Using her art and her business to help the planet and encourage girls to get involved in tech, the young CEO created an eco-friendly clothing and accessories line called Maya's Ideas. Maya has been featured in countless media outlets such as Forbes, Cosmopolitan, Essence Magazine, CBS This Morning, Entrepreneur Magazine, Black Enterprise, and has been chosen by Oprah Winfrey as one of her Super Soul 100 influencers.
If you love our videos and have a suggestion for a future edition, let us hear from you in the comments section below.
Marley Diaz, 13. Hashtag 1000 Black Girl Books. Marley Diaz launched hashtag 1000 Black Girl Books to collect and donate 1,000 books in which Black girls are the main characters. Marley loves reading, but understood that there is a bigger appeal for Black girls to pick up a book that contains relatable characters. As a result of her very successful book drive, Marley was invited to create her own online publication, Marley's Mag, for Elle Magazine's online site. Even more impressive, Marley was just placed on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list and is the youngest person on their 2018 list. Jalen Bledsoe, 19. Bledsoe Technologies. Jalen Bledsoe is a millionaire and credits a technology program for gifted third graders at his St. Louis school for his remarkable success. While in the 6th grade, Bledsoe taught himself web design after taking a yearbook design class. At age 12, he started an IT consulting company with just $100. Today, Jalen's company is valued at more than $3.5 million. Essence Moore, 17. Essence Couture. Black teenager, entrepreneur, and author Essence Moore released the Middle School's Chronicles book series aimed to help prepare younger students for middle school while tackling bullying, low self-esteem, and challenges of adolescence. The tween is the owner of several businesses that include motivational speaking, acting, and fashion. After the successful launch of her clothing line, she added a natural body product line named Wink. However, the salon offers more than just manis and petties. Essence also hosts workshops there that teach children about entrepreneurship, self-esteem, and real-life experiences. Zandra Cunningham. Zandra Beauty. Zandra Cunningham started an all-natural skincare company when she was just 9 years old. Using a small loan of $500, Zandra turned her hobby into a commercially viable enterprise worth over $500,000. Zandra Beauty now offers over 40 products including artisan soaps, body scrubs, body wash, and hand and body lotion. Zandra leverages her success to encourage youth entrepreneurs and empower young African American girls. She has also committed to donating 10% of all net profits to support girls' education. Zandra's hope is to inspire youth to take action and make things happen for themselves and their communities. Corey Nieves, Mr. Corey's Cookies. Corey Nieves always dreamed of making the world better. That passion, combined with a love of treats and an entrepreneurial spirit, led him to start his own business at the age of 6 years old, called Mr. Corey's Cookies. From his tiny home kitchen, Nieves thrived to the point where his operations graduated into a commercial space. Corey and his cookies business was featured on a special episode of CNBC's The Profit, as well as The Ellen Show. These days, he sells up to 1,000 cookies a weekend, and he's currently looking to expand brand into fashion.
We appreciate the fact that you stayed with us until
These kids are, thank you guys for listening. These kids are just absolutely wonderful. And you know that they have good people behind them, supporting them in their dreams. So it's definitely possible to set your children up for success before age 18. So I'm going to share some information with you guys. Give me one moment. Okay, so maybe a lot of people haven't known. Oh, and that's a good book for you to get, and you can read it with your child or grandchild as well, especially if you have a child or grandchild and you notice they have entrepreneur spirit or they have good ideas. You should support whatever ideas that they have. So I'm going to be getting into building your child or grandchild's credit before the age of 18. A lot of people didn't know that you can make them, and of course, you're going to have decent credit yourself to be able to make someone an authorized user, but this is one of the ways here. So you make that child an authorized user, and these are the credit card companies. As you see, American Express, they have to at least be 13 years old, which is great. If you make your child or grandchild an authorized user at age 13, they have 5 good years to grow credit. By the time they're 18 years old, their credit should be, great, good enough to get a loan if they wanted to start a business, good enough to get their own car. That's what we're trying to set them up for success. So American Express says they have to be at least 13 years. But imagine Bank of America, if you have a Bank of America credit card, You can put your 5-year-old child or grandchild on there right now as authorized user and let them start earning credit. And even if they are 13 years old, unless you're paying them an allowance, you don't even have to give them the card. You could just, of course, you want to be making payments from the card, because what affects you, if that authorized user is not doing right, also affects that child. So you don't want to mess that child's credit up. This is in regards to building their credit. So I'm talking about people that, are credit savvy and people that have decent credit. This is something that a lot of people didn't know. So again, Bank of America, no minimum age, child could be 5. Make that child an authorized user, set that card somewhere and let that child's credit grow. Capital One, there's no minimum age of making someone an authorized user. Chase, Citibank, no minimum age. Discover, that's still good, that's still good to let them, because you still, of course, could leave them on there. They turn 18 now at this point, or maybe before. You are actually giving them the card to make purchases and making them responsible for making those payments. And Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is another bank that do not have a minimum age requirement to make someone an authorized user. So that's how we're going to build these children's credit before they're 18. And of course, I'm talking about the people that have pretty much a handle on their credit. You have credit cards. Me, I have so many credit cards I don't even use. I just, made my son an authorized user because he just got his own apartment. He's young, building credit. If you have something like that, or maybe you could apply for a small limit credit card and then make that child an authorized user on there. But this is how we're going to set our children and grandchildren up for success. So again, American Express, 13 years, that's excellent, because they still have 5 years by the time they're 18. If they choose to move out, or even before 18 and they have a business idea, by the time they're 18, 21 years old, their credit will be good enough for them to apply for loans. We're not setting our children up for that. Our credit is bad. We're not teaching our kids about credit, not teaching them about anything to set them up for success. So when they get out of high school, and that's why, to me, the nerve of some parents, as soon as your child graduates, you're telling them to get out. They have no tools. Get out and do what? Get a job? Most of y'all jobs can't handle the bills you have. What job is an 18-year-old, 17-year-old going to get that's going to pay any bills these days? So instead of setting our children up for failure, let's set them up for success. And we can start young. So give me a moment while I go ahead and get to what I'm going to share. Okay, we're going to talk about this because this is why we need to be setting our children up for success. So we're going to talk about the black-white wealth gap left Black households more vulnerable. They're blaming COVID, but no, there's always been a significant wealth gap between Blacks and whites. So it says the COVID-19 pandemic has inflicted devastating effects on the U.S. economy, with job losses especially concentrated among women, minorities, and low-wage workers. Economists have described the uneven and unequal economic recovery from the COVID-19 recession as a K-shaped recovery characterized by divergent recovery trajectories. For the affluent, relative to those of less means, while considerable attention has been devoted to examining the pre-existing disparities in labor markets outcomes that left some households more vulnerable than others to the COVID-19 recession. Less attention has been paid to the role of wealth in determining households' ability to buffer and pandemic economic shocks. Which, listen, I don't care nothing about nothing that they're talking about, because it's been a tremendous gap. But basically, they're saying that the gap is even bigger now. So that's why we need to be setting our children up for financial success. So I just want to go over this, the wealth inequality preceding COVID-19. So in 2019, the median white household held $188,200 in wealth, 7.8 times that of the typical Black household of $24,100. It is worth noting that levels of average wealth, which are more heavily skewed by households with the greatest amounts of wealth or higher, white households reported average wealth of $983,400, which is 6.9 times that of Black households of $142,500. While median wealth is more reflective of the typical household, the scale of average wealth is indicative of the outsized levels of wealth held by the richest household. Listen, this has been going on. That's why it's time that we take a hold of this and not leave our children out to dry. So it says here, the Black-white wealth gap today is continuation of decades-long trends, in wealth inequality as shown in Figure 1. Over the past 30 years, the median wealth of white households has consistently dwarfed that of Black households, ranging from a gap of $106,900 in 1992 to $185,400 in 2007, both adjusted for inflation to 2019 dollars. So it says in the second quarter of 2020, white households who account for 60% of the U.S. population held 84%, which is $94 trillion of total household wealth in the U.S. Comparatively, Black households who account for 13.4% of the U.S. population held just 4%, $4.6 trillion of total household wealth. What a gap. What a gap. So, and we're just talking about within 2019, 2020, they're showing you the gap. What are we doing for our children? What a wealth gap. That's an understatement. Let's see what it's saying here. So it says, Figure 2 shows that white men start with the highest median wealth, and that's even without them having the education that we have. So it shows that single white men start with the highest median wealth, which continues to outpace that of single white women and single Black men and women throughout the life cycle. The median wealth of single white men under the age of 35 is $22,640, is 3.5 times greater than that of single white women, which is $6,470, 14.6 times greater than that of single Black men, $1,550, and 224.2 times greater than that of a single Black woman, $101. By the age of 55 and older, single white men hold 1.3 times more wealth than single white women and 8.1 times more wealth than single Black men. The median wealth of single Black women trails slightly behind that of single Black men until the age of 55, when single Black women hold $40,760 in median wealth compared to a single Black man with $27,100. So they're talking about inherited wealth, because we're not passing no wealth down to our children. I talk about all the time how I see the white community buying life insurance policies. A lot of times they pay their funerals up, or they just know that they want a cremation, and they get several policies just to pass that generational wealth down so their kids can have a head start. If they want to become a business owner or whatever it is, they want to buy a house, they won't be in debt. We leave debt to our children. We leave them in a position where they're always in debt. Student loans, car loans, home loans. The cycle continues. So it says, through wealth accumulates with age. The persistence of wealth gaps at every stage of life cycle further reflects disparities in the intergenerational transfer of wealth via inheritances. White households are substantially more likely to expect and receive inheritance than Black households. Figure 3 shows that in 2019, 17% of white households expected to receive an inheritance compared to just 6% of Black households. These different expectations of inheritance receipt comport with disparities in the actual occurrence and the magnitude of intergenerational wealth transfers. 30% of white households receive an inheritance in 2019 at an average level of $195,500 compared to 10% of Black households at an average level of $100,000, because inheritance are, lightly taxed. Inequalities in inheritance play a significant role in perpetuating a Black-white wealth gap that spans generations. That's just one of the things, outside that, we've been redlined out of everything, and everyone's able to make money off of us and our hard work, except Black people. So yeah, this is one of the reasons inheritance, one of the big reasons how they're able to continuously pass down wealth and land, because they've always had a head start. So now it's time that we give our children and grandchildren a head start. So, look at them. This is where we come in. The Black-white wealth gap intensifies the effects of the labor market disparities. Racial disparities in wealth can intensify the severity of income shocks, as households with lower levels of wealth have fewer resources available to temper the adverse economic impacts of job loss. For Black households who have reported disproportionately high levels of unemployment, and even more so during the COVID-19 recession. I'm not going to really read that, because I want us to start teaching our children to be business owners. They want to talk about disparities when they want to talk about, testing us for, certain experiments and keeping us on the plantation to continue to work. High levels of unemployment. I'm going to tell you what happened during COVID. They don't know. That's the worst thing they could have did, even though there's still a lot of people still trying to figure it out. A lot of people figured it out when they had us locked down. A lot of people said, you know what, forget this. If they're going to just fire people just because we won't do what they want us to do, then I'm going to start my own. That's why you see so many businesses online, people, their hair care products, clothing. That's the worst thing that they could have did for them. So they talk about these disparities because they want us on those corporate plantations to work. While they still have wealth, they're talking about the labor market. For us, like, Black people, they just need these jobs. Yeah, we do to pay bills, but I want us to start teaching the next generation about entrepreneurship. Forget being on these plantations. Because as easy as they let all those people go just because they wouldn't experiment in their experiments without me saying it, they just fired them. No care. These people have mortgages, children to take care of. So you better start wanting to be a business owner and teaching your offspring the same. So I wanted to go over that before we go to the next article. Okay, before I went to my next article, I did want to just show some people this. This is something that you can do also. This is a card here that you can get for a young child. This is a child card. It's called Green Light, and it teaches them how to invest, save, of course, with your help. If they're that age where you let them go to the mall, this is a card here. It's Green Light. It's a kid card. And also, as you see on the left, the Experience Boost. That's something also that you can help with that kid's credit score while you're building their credit. Like if they have their own cell phone, it shows you there if they have their own cell phone, or maybe you can put them on a Netflix or a streaming site, put that on there to boost their credit as well. So I just wanted to plug that there too. But yeah, that Green Light, you can, Google that and look that up. And that's a child's card that you start them off with savings and, showing them how to use debit and credit early. So I just wanted to show you guys that. And let's go to the next video. Yeah, family. So I just wanted to touch on this, and I don't, a lot of people these days with everything that's going on with these schools and agendas, a lot of people are not even really pushing college to their children. And furthermore, a lot of families are not even in a financial position to send their kids to college if they want to go, which is not cool. It's not cool because we have children because we want them to be better than us or, just as good as us. And we want to give them a fighting chance. And parents are just having children, not encouraging them to do nothing but finish school. Make sure you finish school. And then you hear parents say, you're going to go to college, knowing that they don't even have the income to send their child to college. So it's expected, especially for Black children, to automatically go into debt as soon as they get out of school, because most Black homes are not saving for college for their children or have any savings for them. But we're telling them go to college. We want them to be, whatever it is we inspire our children to be, but we're not giving them a helping hand. You shouldn't get out of high school to go to college, to go right into debt. Most of them, they spend their whole career trying to pay off that debt. That's why you see them. You see those people that you probably judge, busting tables, probably work part-time as a cashier. A lot of times they be paying off debt. They still in debt. So we don't even have the money to send our children. So it's just talking about African Americans and college education and the numbers here. So it says the BCUs make up only 3% of the country's colleges and universities, but enroll 10% of all African American students and produce almost 20% of all African American graduates. At times, the numbers are discouraging. Many of the country's colleges have historically struggled to retain and graduate African American students, especially first-generation students from low-income families. Overall research shows that despite progress, there remains significant room room for improvement. Historically, Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, on the other hand, see some of the most impressive numbers when it comes to African American student success, showing how vital HBCUs really are to the success of Black college students in America. Now, the reason why, when it says, especially from first generation students from low income families, these kids are, you can't just be on college. You can't just be in college broke. They don't have no family, no financial family support. The families just basically get it how you live. They don't have any money. And I mean, how do you, if anyone ever went to college or went away to college and struggled on how you was going to eat, whether you was able to afford, had a scholarship, or was able to afford to live on campus, yeah, they failed, because most of the time within the first year, they can't make it past the first year. They have no financial support. They was not set up to be able to make it through those tough times. So yeah, most Black students without their family support or some type of scholarship or money that was set to the side, most of them don't make it out the first or 2 years of college or a 4-year college. Yeah. So it says, even before graduating high school, many Black students lack the resources needed to get into colleges and to succeed. There are only 57% of Black students have access to the full range of math and science courses necessary for college readiness, compared to 81% of Asian American students and 71% of white students. A recent UNCF report, A Seat at the Table, African American Perceptions, K-12 Education, states that African American students are more likely to take remedial college courses than other student groups. The resulting lack of preparedness shows up in standardized test scores. 61% of Black students who took the ACT in the 2015 high school graduating class met none of the 4 ACT college readiness benchmarks, nearly twice the 31% rate for all students. Low test scores make the rest of the college application process more difficult. Getting accepted to a school, earning scholarships, and succeeding in later studies becomes more of a challenge. Of course, that's why we have to set our kids up for success. So whether they have an entrepreneur mindset or they want to go to college, they should be financially set to have that choice either way. And we're not doing that for them. And that's why they're failing, not because they're slow and they're not learning. They're not getting the resources and the support that they need like other ethnic groups give. And I know that financially we are at a disadvantage, but we're not even making the sacrifices. So these are some things that parents can start to do if you don't have the finances right then and there to send your child to college. Maybe you're a single parent and you're basically living check to check, but there are things you can do. Like I said, get life insurance policy. Set your child up in the event. Of course, no one likes to get life insurance because it makes them think of the inevitable. But guess what? It's going to happen and you don't know when it's going to happen. Don't leave your child in debt trying to figure it out and trying to figure out the rest of life, when that's one of the things that you have control over that you can do. You can get a policy, small policy, just enough, even if it's a stepping stone to help them out. People make so many excuses why their kids are failing, but never take responsibility or accountability that it started with them. So it says barriers to graduating from college for some African American students is evidence that by relatively low retention rates of Black students across the nation. Among students enrolled in 4-year public institutions, 45.9% of Black students complete their degrees in 6 years, the lowest rate compared to other races and ethnicities. Black men have the lowest completion rate at 40%. This high dropout rate is partially due to the fact that 65% of African American college students are Independent, meaning they must balance pursuing a degree with full-time work and family responsibilities. In fact, UNCF has found that students at HBCUs borrow more than students from non-HBCUs because African American families generally have lower assets and incomes that limit their ability to contribute towards college expenses. So we're not helping our children out. And I'm not talking to everyone, I'm talking to the ones that know. We're not setting them up for anything. And we know college is not for everyone. They may not want to go to college, but what are you setting your children up for? Not success. We're telling them to go out there, get it how you live. Start from the bottom. Like most kids, when they get out of high school, they're at they got to start at a fast food restaurant. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. So before I go into some videos that I'm going to show, I'm just going to go over basically a study that American Express put out about the average credit score per age. Imagine if you start working on your child's credit before the age of 18. The head start that they're going to get, loans that they can get to start a business, to be successful. Imagine starting them at this age, how savvy they would be, how business savvy they would be, credit savvy, how successful they would be. We got to break these generational curses where we're just not teaching our kids anything as long as they graduate high school. That's the accomplishment of a lifetime. No. We're failing our children, and we got to do better. So I'm gonna go over this study that American Express went over based on credit, based on your age, where certain people's average credit is based on their age. And then I'm going to go into some videos. We're going to listen to some videos of some credit, quote unquote, gurus telling you the simple things that you can do to start building your child's credit now before age 18. So let's get into that. Okay. So this is what American Express is saying. That was as of 2021. Saying, basically it says your age generally not a great indicator of credit score, and it's entirely possible for a younger person to have a high score. Yeah, you know how it's possible if you start off building your credit. I used to date a guy a long time ago, and he was so upset when he turned 18. He found out that his dad had 2 apartment buildings in Brooklyn in his name. His dad had like 13 credit cards in his name, and he was going off on his dad. But let me tell you something. By the time he was 18, he had A1 credit. Nothing that he did. He had A1 credit. So of course this only works when you have a responsible person, because you can't be ruining your credit and your child's credit. So if you're having credit problems, don't worry about making your child an authorized user, because you're going to hurt them more than you can help them. But it could even help you get more credit savvy. Get a small credit card, make that child authorized user. You make those payments on there consistently, get credit increases on there. Yeah, my friend was so upset until he realized how important credit was. He just thought because the mom and him weren't together, his dad weren't together, and the mom was like, yeah, did your dad tell you that he had this in your name? And, the son was just My ex, he was just going off emotion of mom's emotion, but not realizing how his dad helped him. Now, of course, it could have went either way. He could have ruined his credit, but he didn't. So by 18, he had 2 apartment buildings in his name in good standing and several credit cards. Great standing. He had A1 credit at 18. You could do it. I know a lot of people didn't know you can do it. You thought the child had to wait because, you know, most of the time, as soon as you turn 18, they're offering you all types of credit cards. No one's telling us about credit. We're like, oh yeah, credit. It's not actual money, not knowing we really had to pay for it. So a lot of us messed our credit up early, and then, you know, later on in life had to start, you know, scratching ourselves out the dirt to establish credit again once we realize how important credit is. But we can give our kids a head start. So it's just saying between the ages of 18 24, the average FICO score may be 679, 25 to 40, it may be 686, and so on. You know, as you get older, you should be more financially stable. 41 to 56, a 705 score. And as it say, you know, as you go on, it goes higher. But you know, this is not, you know, written in stone, because of course people that's not 76 years old have 700 and 800 credit scores. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. And I'm going to go into these videos of these individuals just giving you some tips on what to do to start jump starting your kids or your grandkids credit, so you can start helping them in that way, even if you don't have the finances there. I may do a video, and I'm not going to do it intensively because YouTube do have me shadow banned. I don't know why, because I barely have any subscribers. It may be because of my content, but I wanted to do a video kind of educating people on trust accounts, but I don't know. I may. So yeah, we're gonna go on to those videos, and hopefully you guys will pick up some tips that you will implement as soon as possible. If you feel like you missed the ship with your children and they're too old now, then you can do it with your grandchildren, or pass it on to someone that have young children and give them a head start. Start working on your credit right now.
How to build your child's credit. And it's actually easier than you think. So did you know you can start building your child's credit as young as 13 years old?
I didn't start it from the beginning, guys.
At the age of 13, you can actually start building up your child's credit. You may say, well, how do you do that, Will? I'm going to tell you just right here. You can do so by adding them on as an authorized user on a credit card. That's right. You can add your child on as an authorized user to a credit card and just let it kind of marinate, as I may say, over the next 5 years.
That's
because you can't
American
pull their credit
Express.
report until they're 18.
The other credit cards doesn't have an age.
And once they're 18, you'll be able to go and pull the credit report and be able to see the effects or the after effects of by adding them on as an authorized user. Now, there's a couple caveats when adding them on as an authorized user. Now, let's say you're the parent. Okay, you're the one with the good credit credit card and all of that good stuff. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to have great credit. You just want to have a credit card in good standings. Now, if you add them onto that credit card, let's say you have $1,000 credit card limit. Now, you as the parent have to make sure that you have no late payments, okay? As well as your credit usage is at 30% or less. I always say if you can have it at 10% or less, it's actually even better, especially if you're going to add them on as an authorized user. Because if you get a late payment, guess who else has a late payment? They're going to have a late payment. So you've already set them up for failure by adding them on as an authorized user to a credit card where you have a late payment. Or let's say you are over 30% or you max the card out, then now that's going to hurt their credit profile over time. Now, the good thing when it comes to credit usage is you can always pay that down. I mean, essentially you have 5 years to get that credit card balance down. But in the event you add them on as an authorized user, it cannot impact you unless you let them use the card and you decide not to pay the bill. So by adding them on as an authorized user, it does not impact you negatively whatsoever, okay? Because keep in mind, you do not have to give them access to the card. All you're doing is adding them on as an authorized user just to set them up for success. So when they do turn 18, you're able to go pull their credit report. So now as they decide to go off into the real world, they can qualify for that auto loan. They can qualify for that mortgage. They can qualify for that apartment. They may even want to go and get their own credit card, for in case of emergencies or whatever the case is. Now they can qualify for that job. See, keep in mind, we have to have a paradigm shift of understanding why credit is so important. Because I get it. There's a lot of pundits, a lot of gurus, and a lot of people telling us that we don't need credit, that credit is bad, it's the devil, and all those things. And that could be the case for some people who may want to live off the grid. But I'm telling you that in a community where credit is, commonly used, or the power of utilizing credit, we want to put our children in position so when they do decide to go out into the real world, that they're already set up for success. Because just by adding them on as an authorized user, by the time they turn 18 and you pull their credit score, as long as you keep that credit card in good standing, guess what? They're going to have a 700 plus credit score right out the gate. So immediately, this is the best graduation gift you can give a child. This is the best college gift you can give a child. Because as I always say, I'd rather have great credit than having access to $100,000 in the bank. Because when you have great credit, trust me, you can position yourself to create wealth. And we'll talk about that in a whole nother video. So just to recap, how to build your child's credit literally overnight is simple. Adding them on as an authorized user, making sure you keep the balance at 30, preferably 10% or less. Make sure you get no late payments. Make sure it definitely doesn't go to collections or anything of that nature. Because again, once they turn 18, they will have a 700 plus credit score. Now, not all credit card companies or banks will allow you to add them on at the age of 13, but even if they're 17, some may say 15 or 16, all banks have their own rules. Needless to say, as soon as they turn 18 years old, they're going to have a great credit score to allow them to be able to go out there, go into the real world, at least not having to solely rely on us from a cosigner standpoint or whatever the case may be. So again, hopefully you learned something. If you have not done so, go help build your child's credit. Trust me, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Again, family, my name is Will.
Yes, family. So, he was going off of, I don't know if he knew or he just was just giving a little brief, video about the 13 years. But actually the ones that I showed you, as long as there's no age limit, you can add them on, even if they're 5 or 6 years old. So 13 years is for like American Express. American Express requires them to be 13 years. And then I think it was another one that Discover, I think, was 15 years. But other than that, the other ones had no age, no age limit at all. So we're going to go on to the next. Okay, let's listen to what he has to say about credit building for children.
Maintaining a good credit score can help you set yourself up for some good opportunities out there, whether it be for a house, a car, or other bills. You know the routine, but there is a way to help set your children up for success when it comes to finances as well. And CPA Kimberly Washington joins us now to let us know when people should start working to build your child's credit score. I've got a new kid, so this is a very interesting subject for myself. So what can you do out there to kind of start off early?
Right. You can do a couple of different things. And so the first thing you can do, let's say, for instance, you have that child who's gone away from college and you're thinking about purchasing a child, just a small car, some type of large item. You can actually use that cash, contact a bank, and consider a secure loan in that child's name. And so that way, that's one way that they can actually start establishing their credit. So many people don't think about this as it relates to making those large payments and large for different assets, but that is a way that you can get started.
The trick is to have the money up front and then secure the loan and then have the money to pay back the loan.
Right, exactly.
Don't just give them a loan, right?
Right, exactly. But this isn't the case if you know that you're going to make a payment, a large payment. So, of course, everybody won't fall into that. But if you will, that's something to think about.
And speaking of getting away from the actual large payments, there's a simple way you can do with your credit card you have in your pocket right now.
Right. So if that's not an option, another thing that you can do if you have, let's say, a Discover card or whatever type of credit card that you may have, you may want to add the child as a user. And I did some research on this. And the crazy thing about this is that you can add a child in some cases at the age of 0. You know, as soon as they come out, you can decide, okay, I'll add them as an authorized user. But what you're doing there, you're actually establishing their credit because they're taking on your credit, your good habits. And so it's actually establishing a credit report. Now, this will only work, of course, if you have a good credit file too as well. But keep in mind, if you're adding a child on, you're now authorizing them to also use the credit card. So it has its advantages and also disadvantages too as well.
My 1-year-old's going to have a credit card this afternoon.
I don't know. I'm not saying you should do that, but it's something to think about.
It's an option out
there.
Yes,
when they get a little older.
But speaking of that credit report and checking it often, there's ways you can actually protect your kid's credit report.
So identity theft for children are on a rise. And so it was also a research showed that individuals under the age of 7 years old, children, are now being more victims of credit identity theft. So one thing you want to do is definitely put a freeze on your child's credit, especially right now, since they're not going to be using their credit until maybe they make 18 or 21, whatever the case may be. And then another thing you want to do is check annual credit report each year, maybe on a birthday, and just make certain there's no activity, because a lot of times people find out when it's really too late. And so people are really targeting young kids these days as it relates to credit because they have, you know, not so established credit and they may be on the rise. No one's going to think about the child as it relates to credit identity theft. So you want to check out those reports now.
Really great tips out there. A lot of people with bad credit right now wish their parents took these steps early to help you out. But speaking of some steps to help us out, leave us with the Kim Sense.
The Kim Sense is just what I'm saying as far as the credit report. Make sure you put some type of monitoring for your child, and so that you can monitor their report throughout the year. And so make sure that you have some alerts. So in case there's any activity that happens for your child, you'll be alert of it as soon as it happens.
All right. Always great to have you. See you here next week.
Thank you so
put all this on our
Yes, family. So that was definitely good information. And I hope you guys go back, watch this, share this with people with young children. You heard what she said, as young as 0. That guy, you know, I don't know if he was just skimming through and he didn't really do his research. No, there's cards that have no limit at all. And you can start that baby's credit right away. So I'm just going to go over some tips that you can start doing with the child if you're not already, showing them how to budget their money, getting them ready for credit worthiness. So give me a moment. Okay, family. So let's go over these tips here. It says tips to teach budgeting to your kids. Teach your kids how to save money early. Discover helpful tips about how to teach kids budgeting skills. So if you want to be good at something, it's important to start learning early. The same goes for money and budgeting. Children might not be interested in budgets, but the valuable lessons are worth it. These tips can help you teach your children how to budget. So it says, let them earn their money. I earned my money doing chores. Again, I know a lot of families may not be financially in a situation to pay their kid, but if you are, and I know a lot of people have, old upbringings like, well, that's what they're supposed to do. Start to pay your kids allowance for their chores. So it says, start by having your child do chores for their weekly allowance. They'll learn to better appreciate the value of every dollar when they have to work for it. You can also offer them a few bucks more if they do a couple of extra chores. So it says discuss wants and needs, because we do know that there's two different things. So teach a child the difference between wanting and needing something. You can use your own household budget. Just show examples of when you cut back on things you wanted but didn't necessarily need. Set savings goals. Kids need a tangible goal to motivate them to save. For example, if your child wants a new $60 video game, you can teach them to save the money from their allowance. When I first got into insurance, I remember my mentor, he told me, because I was a door-to-door salesman, not in no call center, and it wasn't no hourly. So I was just straight up commission. I had to get it how I live. And he says, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna make you go out there and get it. He says, either focus on buying something real expensive, which wasn't good enough for me because I'm not a good window shopper. If I'm going in the store to buy it, or I'm not that person that go and fantasize on things I want if I can't get it. So he says, or go buy something real expensive, like a car or something. He said, because you're going to do everything in your power to keep it. So you're going to chase that bag. And he wasn't lying. And I paid my car off in a year and a half. That one expensive thing that I did. So give them a goal. Saving their money. Something expensive that they may want that you're not going to buy for them, but you are really buying if you're giving them allowance. But yeah, let them set goals for themselves. It's building good character and good saving ethics too. So it says offer a saving incentive. Your employer matches your contribution to your retirement plan. Why not offer the same scheme to your child? Make a matching donation to your child's savings. I did that with my son when he was 16. He was like 16 and a half. He was working at Wendy's, tired of walking to work because our work schedule clashed, so I wasn't getting off in enough time to pick him up. And he's like, nah, I need a car. And his little Wendy's job, he would have been working there forever. And I told him, for every $100, I'll match. That's what we did. So he bought his first car. And let's see here. It says, let them learn from their mistakes. If your child is about to misspend their allowance, let them, at least for the first time. The consequences may be harsh at first, but they'll gain a valuable lesson through the experience, and they probably won't make the same mistakes again. Yeah, let them, because they had money. And if they mess up their money and then they want you to buy something, no, you misspent your money. Teach them. This is how the real world is. No one's going to come in. If I mess up my mortgage, I go gamble up my mortgage. No one's going to come in and say, oh, it's okay, I understand, and replace my mortgage to cover for my mistakes. So it's okay to let them learn from their mistakes, for sure. So these are just some good, good practices to go over with your children. And I have one more thing I want to go over with you, and this is with the wallet. They're just talking about, credit. So one moment. Yeah, so this is just, if people never made anyone an authorized user on their card before, didn't know what an authorized user is. This just kind of goes over it. It says an authorized user credit score can get to the good or excellent credit range. Adding someone as an authorized user is a great low risk way to give your child a head start on financial success at any age, or to help a family member rebuild damaged credit. It's difficult to say exactly how much or how quickly a particular authorized user's credit score will improve. However, a lot depends on the contents, if any, of the authorized user's credit report and the nature of the account to which he or she is given access. Meaning, basically, if you get in a mediocre, somebody with a car, they got a little $1,000 credit limit, they just been paying the minimum payments. So your same spending and credit habits is going to affect that person that you make authorized user. If you have good credit ethics and good spending habits, then it's going to help your authorized user. It's going to benefit your authorized user credit. So however your spending habits are and your credit habits, or your relationship with that particular card that you add that person to, that's going to determine how fast, how quickly, how that credit grows. Now, if you just have a card always have a zero balance, you always pay the balance off in full, you have a good relationship with that particular card, that child is going to grow credit fast. Along with the other thing I gave you guys with the Experian Boost, you can do that for the child as well. It says like a streaming site, something like that you could, put in the child's name. And this is not to hurt the child. This is, of course, you're going to have to be paying in order for this thing to work. But yeah, so that's what they mean by that. So it says adding an authorized user to an old account with a high credit line, low utilization, as a pristine payment history will provide the best results. So say you got a card that you've had for 2 years, and then you got a card that you have for 7 years. You want to add them to the card with the longest history, especially with a high credit line, because they're going to be coming in the gate with good credit with that card. That's where you get the majority, a lot of your score is determined from. A lot of it is determined from the revolving credit that you've had longer, that's been in good standing for a long time. So if you have that type of card, that's the card you want to put the child on. If not, and you're just now building your credit yourself, it's okay. But just understand the credit is going to move at normal pace. It's going to probably move at a slow pace, but the good thing is it's going to help that child's credit. So it says, adding an authorized user to an old account with a high credit line, low utilization, and a pristine payment history will provide the best results considering how credit scores are calculated. In that scenario, an authorized user could get a credit score of 700 plus after a few years. So we're talking a few years could be 2 years. After 2 years, you say you got a 13-year-old as an authorized user and you put them on one of those cards, your child, they coming out the gate with a 700 score. Most adults don't have a 700 score due to, bad credit decisions or, maybe losing a job, what have you, but they coming out the gate. So by the time they 18, as long as you're still doing what you need to do as a parent and you're teaching them good spending habits, your child graduating high school with a 700 plus score. As the guy said, instead of them depending on and having them dump more debt onto our already debt, they'll be in a position now. They'll be in a position if they want to become an entrepreneur and take a loan out for their business. They'll be in a position to do that for themselves. To get a car, to get a nice car if they want, to get around, to get that prestige job if they want, or to get wherever they need to go to start their business. They will be in that position to do that. You heard what that guy said. I promise you, credit is worth way more than cash. A lot of white people, they live off credit. They get high balances. They increase those balances. They get them high. They pay everything they have on those credit cards. And when it get too much above their head, they file Chapter 7. And you can file a different bankruptcy every 7 years. And then when they get over their head again, because you'll get offered credit cards again, maybe three months after bankruptcy, you know what they do? Then they file Chapter 13 or something like that. But white people live off of credit. They paying their mortgages, everything off of credit. Time you start teaching your children about credit. Let's see what else they have to say. So it's just talking about authorized users and, how it works. Authorized users and credit scores, what you need to know. Credit card issuer reporting. The vast majority of credit card issuers report authorized users' information to the major credit bureaus, thus enabling the user to build credit, but not all do. You might therefore want to double check with the issuer of your card just to be safe, especially if it's a credit union or small bank. Yeah, a lot of credit unions, they're not going to be doing that most of the time. But the major credit cards, they do, because I've added my children to several of my credit cards. But yes, it says improve credit scores. It's possible to build a good credit score just by being an authorized user. Furthermore, research shows that authorized users are more likely to have a credit score over 680 than non-authorized users. Help your children out, people. Something as simple as this. A lot of people, I don't have money, I'm working, I'm trying to survive myself. These are some of the things that we could be doing for our children. And of course, it's going to help you build good credit habits because you'll want to get your credit together to be able to help your child. Now, it says disputing negative information. Because authorized users are not liable for bill payments, excuse me, they cannot be held responsible for negative account activities that's reported to the credit bureaus. Authorized users can simply remove themselves from the account and dispute the appearance of the negative information on their credit reports. You're the primary, even though what you do affects them, but they're not liable to what happens on that card. You're still responsible, and it shows that they can still dispute. So it's talking here about credit score models and lenders. Not all credit scoring models treat records of authorized use equally, and not all lenders will be satisfied with only authorized user experience. Meaning, if that child maybe they're 18 now, and they got a little decent job, and they want to try to get a car on their own, but the only credit they have is showing that they've been an authorized user under their parent. That bank may not accept that as good credit or good credit worthiness. So once they get 18 and they have earned the credit under you being an authorized user, it's good to get them a secured card to let them start building under their own name. And you can monitor that as well. Or you can do that before. But that's what they mean. A lot of banks, but we know money talks, but a lot of banks don't really have to recognize an authorized user because like a lot of them could just say, okay, you was under your parent. Your parent have good credit. You ain't do nothing. You can't show us that you could make these payments on your own. So that's what they mean by that. Because it says here, and since the whole point of credit improvement is to qualify for better financial products and save money, authorized users' use alone may not always pay off. That's why we recommend that authorized users also open their own credit card account, even if they don't plan to actually make any purchases with it. Well, that right there is false, because if you have a card and you don't use it or make no purchases with it, they'll close it and say for no use. Because I had several credit cards and they're like, will you be using this card? Because we can just go ahead and deactivate it. So you have to make purchases to be able to show that you're responsible enough to pay them back. So if you do get your own, or you get that child their own credit card, get a limited secure card where their money and your savings is in that card, $200, and it's going to make them, they're going to have to be required to pay it just like they will anyone else. Get in the habit of paying the full balance. The reason why people don't pay the full balance of their credit cards because they always spend outside of their means. I don't spend anything on my credit cards that I can't pay in full when the amount is due, when the bill is due. So get into those habits, and those will create good credit habits for you, and also that you can teach your own child or grandchildren. So let me see here. Here's something else that I did want to share with you guys before we end. Okay, so I apologize, guys. Y'all know I'm still navigating through this thing, and I got 1,000,001 tabs open, and for some reason I always have the fat finger, and I don't even have fat finger. So it just says how good credit helps young adults. So it says having good credit open doors throughout adulthood, especially when making large financial decisions like buying a house or car. If you have a high credit score, you can use it to your advantage, says Deserve CEO Kapish Kapadia. Deserve is a credit card company geared towards helping college students and young professionals build their credit. Kapadia points out that even prior to the pandemic, those aged between 18 and 29 weren't building a lot of credit history. They were using debit cards, he says. They were Ubering everywhere, so they weren't buying. So I just want to go down to the examples because I don't really want to hear what he got to say in regards to that. These are ways parents can help their kid build good credit. Again, as we just went over, add your kid as an authorized user on your credit card. If you add your child as an authorized user on your credit card, they can get started earlier than they would on their own. If you look at the 5 factors that drive your credit score, says Kapadia, one of them is the length of credit history, and your first card determines the length of your credit history. Like I was saying, that's where you're going to get the bulk of your credit score from. Your history, to be able to show that you could make payments for a period of time. So contact your credit card issuer to find out whether they report authorized users to the credit bureaus. If they do, go ahead and add your child as an authorized user. Check with your card issuer for any age restrictions. It's relatively low. In some cases, American Express, for example, only requires authorized users to be over 13 years of age. They don't report credit information to bureaus until an authorized user turns 18, though. I forgot to tell you guys that. So even though they are growing the credit, by law, they're not allowed to touch the child's credit until they're 18, which means that credit won't be reported to their credit bureaus until the age of 18, but they are building credit. So I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. So it says you'll receive a credit card and the mailing feature, your card. Sign them up for starter credit cards. like we were just talking about. Another option is to get them their own credit card. You have to be at least 18 for this. Now, this is after they're already 18, but if you're still going to have them stand in your home and you're helping them get established before they go out on their own, get them on a starter credit card so they can start building credit now. Keep in mind that your child is the one applying for the card and will be subject to a credit check like anyone else. With limited credit history, their choice of cards will be limited. So here, what we're talking about, teach them how to manage their finances. Use teaching moments like grocery shopping or trips to the bank to help your child understand financial concepts like how to spend below your means. Even adults, always spending above your means. And above your means doesn't mean, a lot of people's like, I got it. If I got it, I'm going to spend it. Spending above your means. Even when now I'm at home, I'm a broker, but we are mainly off of my husband's business income. But even when it was majority 2 incomes, we lived like it was one. And we had it. We could have balled. We could have balled out. It doesn't mean because you have it, you need to ball out. You need to always be looking at your income like it's one, because anything could happen to that income when you're in a 2 household. And you need to live like that and spend like that unless you have to spend outside of that. That's what it means by spending outside the means, because you have it. Just like we see a lot of celebrities. Okay, you have it. So just because you have it, you need 26 cars. Like, come on. And it says the importance of making payments on time. Very important. Again, I don't spend anything that I can't pay in full when that bill is due. If you don't know how your finances is going to be within that 28-day cycle, don't spend $1,000 on a card. Now you got to just make the minimum payments, and that's going to report to your credit bureau, and then you're going to have a higher utilization, and your score is going to suffer. So if that's how you're working your credit now, then don't add your kid, because it's not going to help your kid. It's going to hurt your kid. You need to talk to them about the difference between a debit card, which is your actual money you're spending, and a credit card and how that works. Because when you're young, you think it's all the same. You think it's on a plastic, I don't have to pay it back, just swipe it. You don't know the difference between a debit and a credit. And you definitely want to teach them when they start getting your credit card what compound interest is. So when you're not making those full monthly payments and you're making the bare minimums, explain to them what compound interest is. Explain to them how loans work and how to budget their money. So I just wanted to just give some tips and some ideas to people to give their children a head start. Because I know a lot of us are concentrating on reparations and, other things coming through for us, but that's not helping our children. That's not helping our children and what they need right now. And if they're young right now and your credit is in good standing, or you're in a position where you can even apply for a credit card that's not, that much of a high credit limit, just to be able to put your child on an authorized user, do that. But this is only going to work if you get your own credit in order, so you can do this for your kids. Because if not, that's why a lot of the kids don't have respect, because it's like, you're not leaving me with nothing. You have me, you brought me here, and I have nothing. I didn't want my children to work when they were able to work. They wanted to make their own money, and I'm trying to show them other solutions. They wanted to do what their friends were doing and go work at Wendy's and the Taco Bells and the fast food, but they learned quickly that they didn't want to be on those jobs, because they learned that making $7.15 for all that work wasn't the way to go. I tell them all the time, you see these grown people in their 40s and 30s working there, they didn't want to be there. They got stuck in those type of positions. So it's our job to set our children up for financial success. And I hope the ones that are in a position where they can add their kids or grandkids to their card. And if you don't want to tell them about it until you can see that they're being responsible and they have their allowance, like I said, and they start getting a certain age, they go to the store, start letting them swipe their own little card. Start showing them early. So leave comments, please, so I can hear about how you guys thought about this pre-recorded broadcast about setting our children up for financial success before the age of 18. If anyone else have any ideas, anything that they do or have done to set their children up, please let us know. Comment below. I always say this is my last video of the week. We'll start back up next week. Again, I will not go live until I can get my subs up, because it makes no sense for me to go live right now. I don't have a lot of subscribers, so I don't mind giving you guys these pre-recorded broadcasts. But I'm going to tell you guys, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, productive week. Thank you for coming to listen. I hope it was informative for you guys. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And again, this is Naturally Tora, Tora Talks, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.